Oh yeah, I'm feeling good today. I feel like I'm almost looking good for once. Sonia got me a new top. I got my hat on. I've had a little shave. And the reason being, I have got one of my DJ man crushes. Rob Tissera is in the Rave Story hot seat. One of the first people in the UK to be arrested for causing a riot at an illegal acid house party way back in the day. The only person in recent times that I will do a back-to-back set with, because this man's knowledge of music and his styles are unbelievable. He knows how to move a crowd. He knows how to make a tune. He knows exactly what record and what mixes to do next. He is a Don. Robbie Tissera, Bobby
What an intro that is, mate. Thank you.
Straight.
Thank you.
Rob,
thanks for inviting me. Thank you for inviting me.
Straight from the heart, mate.
I appreciate it, mate. I really do. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Coming from you, proper operator, I'll take that all day long, mate. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
It's like, look, I haven't done many back-to-back sets as it is throughout my career.
Yeah.
And, it's always a pleasure when we
mate,
do a back-to-back.
Always, yeah. It's just like sometimes there's people that you work with and you do that with where you know it's a guarantee that it's all going to work, it's all going to flow. There's never going to be that awkward moment where you feel that there's a mad wrong choice of music or a train crash or anything. It's always on point, isn't it, when we do it?
It's just a natural flow, whether it's... We've done soul and funk 80s sets. We've done house sets. We've done old school rave sets. I think we've even done a hard house set before.
Yeah, we have. In
Corfu. And it's just like there's just like this musical connection between us. And I think we have the same fascination of the whole journey. Yeah,
it's rare, isn't it? It's rare, it's rare that people have that kind of like depth to be able to sort of go in different directions. It's just like music is a jackdaw. It picks up things from all over the place, and sort of I love that. And I've always been like that. I like 80s new wave punk, everything. And I think there's a time and a place for any kind of music. There's some musics I'm less keen on, but not that many.
You can appreciate all. To sum up your passion so the people know like how locked in he is to his music. He's an hour and a half late today, not because his timing is bad, but he's been on his computer making tunes and doing his edits, and it made him miss his stop up north, didn't
mate.
It?
Yeah, I was coming from Leeds, and I just looked up. I thought, we must have stopped at Doncaster, and then I thought to myself, hold on a minute, I'm in Chesterfield. What am I doing here? And I was on my computer. I had to pull all the leads out of the bloody phone and everything else and just dump it in my bag and just run off the train. And then luckily there was another train to London straight after from Chesterfield. So I
lost in the beats.
Actually lost in music. Yeah.
Before we crack on with the interview, if you've not got Rob's book yet, The Smiler, that was released on our publishing company, Music Mondays. The link is down here below. It's an incredible book. It's an incredible story.
Thank you.
Talking about music, where did your fascination and love grow for it?
Off my mum and dad. Yeah. Elvis Presley, listening to Jailhouse Rock, watching them Elvis movies, actually, that sort of stuff, watching, because he was, a big movie star and all them sort of films. And then from that into listening to Susie Quattro and like the glam rock stuff and all that sort of music. And then out of the back of that came disco. Literally it went from sort of the 70s, from that kind of music, even, dare I say it, Gary Glitter and all that stuff.
You've got to give your age away here, Rob.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. Well, yeah. I was only half a year old at this point. Yeah.
Right, yeah.
But, I am quite old. I'm 59, unfortunately.
You look about 21, you cheeky... Can you hear that? You're 59 years of age. I knew your age anyway, but I just wanted to always say you.
I'm not a young man, unfortunately, but yeah, it gives you experience, doesn't it? Yeah, that's where the love of all them different styles comes from, and then disco came along, and all that early stuff. Off the Wall, 1976. That Michael Jackson album was absolutely
What was
pivotal.
it about disco and that stuff?
The energy,
right?
My mum and dad they come out of the rock and roll era. My mum's God rest her soul. She passed away earlier this year, and her love and enthusiasm for music and dancing made me follow her steps, and we used to go to, funnily enough, parties with all of their friends. My dad's from Sri Lanka, my mum's from Dublin. They're party people. I don't know whether you've ever met many Sri Lankans, but they love a good time. Right. Their musical culture is a music called baila, which is picked up from Latin America. Because the Portuguese discovered some of Goa and Sri Lanka, and the top end of what was Ceylon then. So that they love this this calypso-y kind of groovy sort of this
love that.
Yeah, and so we used to go to these crazy parties, and there would be times where we would think to ourselves, they've been up all night. We would go to bed as kids, 10 years of age, and then we'd get up in the morning, and they would all still be up, looking a bit sweaty and looking like they've been having a good time, and I just loved I love that party spirit, So that's where that kind of love of a party came from. Yeah. And that kind of that gave me the taste for music. But my dad plays guitar. My mum plays piano, and my sister has played a few instruments: saxophone, violin. I played violin for a while, and then I sort of progressed on to playing. We had an old organ in the house, and they used to play the keyboard a little bit. And then I started playing bass when I was 13. So and the music that was around then was jazz funk.
Can you remember some of the jazz funk?
Yeah, like Azimuth and stuff like that, and Lonnie Liston Smith. And then Jazz Carnival, them sort of records. And they were long Carnival as well. They were, some of them mixes were 12 minutes long. Some of them old tunes. I've
got the 12 inches at home. I just marvel at them. Eddie Henderson, Azimuth, all those tunes are just amazing. Yeah, incredible. Beautiful. House before house.
Before house. I mean, when you listen to how that stuff was edited together, and it had drum breaks in it and all that kind of stuff, and I just so my dad used to collect records, from being 7 or 8, so he was into hi-fi. He was into having really decent quality hi-fi stuff, Technics, and he's the first person that I ever knew who had a Vari-Speed Technics deck, which was the forerunner to the 1200. I don't even know what model it is. It was the first one that had a pitch control on it. It didn't have much of a pitch control, but it had a pitch controller. It was direct drive, and I used to listen to his records, and he had this album, this double album, the theme from Shaft album. Yeah. And on that album, the theme from Shaft is the thing that gave birth to Young MC.
Young MC, of course, yeah.
So when years later, I used to go to the sunrise parties and I heard Carl Cox playing, he played that track. He played Young MC. And I was like, I'm sure it was him. I'm almost certain it was him. Yeah. I just remember thinking, oh my God, it's the theme from Shaft, So these things just stick with you.
It resonated with you and you identified
forever,
with
yeah.
It.
And so I've always had a love of vinyl from those days, because he had a really decent, pristine collection of records.
Can you remember your first records that you bought?
I can.
Come on, tell us.
You ready for this?
Yeah, go on.
Gary Glitter, do you want to be in my gang?
Oh, Oh, at least you're being
Paid
honest.
50 pence. Yeah.
And you're not
I mean,
making
the
a
thing is, I
different
used to
name.
buy a record every week, right? So I used to get pocket money, and I could buy one record a week, a 7-inch single, and that was the first 7-inch single that I bought. And yeah, Susie Quattro and all that kind of stuff came after that, but. Being absolutely honest with you, that's the first record.
My mum used to buy me and my brother every new number one that went into the charts from Woolworths or Our Price. So when the new number one went in the charts, she'd take us down to the shop and get us that number one.
Yeah.
And that was like, I mean, as far back as I can remember, 5-6 years of age.
That is what's made that passion, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's what's made that love, that feeling of getting that product, you know, of that love of the music, you know, and being able, you know, and my sister liked things like The Whispers.
And the beat goes on.
Yeah, and, you know, and of course Luther Vandross. And
we love Luther.
amazing. That record is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
I've been to see him live, actually, at Wembley Conference Centre when that was a thing. And Alexander O'Neill went to see him the same year.
Alexander O'Neill, he was at one of our local pubs kind of venues about 15, 18 years ago, and we knew the promoter of this event, and me and Sonia got to meet Alexander O'Neill. Absolute lunatic.
Yeah, apparently he is an absolute off his rocker,
But, I'll have to show you, Sonia will show you the picture later, and it's like, Alexander O'Neill. But yeah, he was a character.
What singers.
Yeah.
What singers. Like, to listen to those guys live, it's just a thing of beauty, you know, flawless, absolutely flawless.
Absolute soul.
So really soul and funk sort of took over from that point on. I mean, that
from Gary Glitter.
Yeah, took over from the glam rock and Mud and Tiger Feet and all the rest of it. Yeah. But certainly, Quincy Jones, really, so listening to that first Off the Wall album, I just used to put it on and want to dance to it, Don't Stop Till You Get Enough, them sort of tracks, like that kind of like high energy sort of sound, and then that just stayed with me for years and years and years, really, until you become a teenager, and then, you sort of, you're influenced by people at school, and we started liking Crass and Discharge and all the punk acts and Flux of Pink Indians and crazy bands like Stiff Little Fingers, and we used to go and watch Killing Joke and all them sorts of things. I think this is what's given me that kind of base to think, right, I love that soulful feeling, but then sometimes I just like something that just is gritty.
Yeah.
And that's where kind of our love of like playing the harder music comes from as well. I think
I love the harder stuff. I
just releases a different energy. Yeah,
because that's what it's all about, energy. When did you think I want to be a DJ?
Probably. So me and my best mate Danny, who I went to school with, and he's the person who took me to my first Back to the Future, to my first Sunrise. He used to knock around with a girl who used to go out with Tony Colson Hayter, who used to run the Sunrise stuff. So we used to sometimes get into them as a result of that. And I remember going to the first Back to the Future that I went to was at Santa Pod, which is where Jay Foley does, where the Fat Controller does Weekend in the Woods.
Less said about him, the better. He's probably on the internet now making memes about me.
He's the meme master at the moment, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's the AI meme master.
You watch out, Rob. His band's
of course he's
be careful of what you say, because he'll have something to say about you in a meme.
But so I remember going to that rave, and Adamski was playing, and load. In fact, see, the thing is that it weren't really about any names, was it? You only got to know some people's names just because you liked what they played, so you went out your way to find out who that person was. In fact, just backtracking from there, just slightly before that, when we were 15, 16, we used to go to this place in Milton Keynes called the Starting Gate, and that place is the first place that we used to listen to high energy stuff like Divine and Vicious Pink Phenomena, and like what ended up, we didn't even realise it. It was a gay club, you know, and we just used to go there because it was open on a Sunday night. It's where everybody went to, and it was awesome. And the guy who used to play, we used to love what he did, and he used to play. It weren't really mixing because it was mixing really, but and this is another thing. What this guy taught us was it's not about how you mix it together, it's what you play next.
If that's the most important part.
What you play next is what counts, you know, and he was really good at that, and as a result of that, we got to know this guy, and it turned out to be Evil Eddie Richards.
Boom. I was really hoping you was going to say it was Evil Eddie Richards. I was so
That's
hoping
exactly
the moment you said Milton Keynes, I was just like, please be Evil Eddie.
Evil Ed, and I don't ever think of him as being evil, to be fair, because he's the first person who we heard playing Planet Patrol and Planet Rock and electro, you know, actual proper crucial electro, and he used to play that stuff, and we loved it. And he's probably listening to him. That's not quite when I thought about being a DJ, because I was still playing bass, you know, and I was really into the musician side of stuff. But that's what kind of made me understand it more. Right. And then when I saw a couple of other people like Carl Cox, and Trevor Fung as well.
Yeah, Trevor, Trevor's an unsung hero.
Amazing, beautiful man, love him. And when I heard him playing, that's when I started to think, I understand what they're doing, because they had some records that I had, and then they were playing them over the top of each other, and that's when it suddenly made me realise, I think it's a musical instrument. Of which I understood the music side of things. So I'm like, right, let's get a double decks and let's just mess around with this and see where it goes. And that's kind of where it came from.
Can you remember your double decks, what they were?
No, I actually can't remember.
One of those all-in-ones.
I hired it. Yeah, I hired it off. I've had quite a long journey from being in Milton. I lived in Milton Keynes, grew up in Milton Keynes, Bletchley, and then out of the back of there, I joined the forces. I was in the RAF for a few years. Yeah, so I then travelled the world doing stuff with the RAF, which, to be fair, was really, really good. Taught me a lot of discipline. You know, all this, like, you know, working late, getting up early, all the rest of it. With the forces, it's a case of, right, they'd say, right, get up now and go. And then, so when it comes to traveling and doing all the sort of stuff that we've done as DJs, you know, when you have to say, right, I'm going to set my alarm. I've got 15 minutes to get some kip here.
That explains your impeccable work rate.
Right, maybe.
It really does, right, because you are so on the ball.
I do have an ethic. I think that's also taught by my mum and dad as well. Yeah. I think that's taught by my mum and dad that you just got to, you have to work for what you want in life. Sometimes it can't be given to you. Yeah. I mean, it can be given to you, but I don't think you appreciate it as much.
I think we're both the same in that respect, because me and
you proper hard worker.
But but if you think, I know that the phone would still go for you with people wanting to book you as Rob Tissera, and you wouldn't have to do all that you do during the week. And the same goes for me, like our phone would still go. Yeah. But I believe that, like, Monday to Friday has to be that time needs to be treated with
enjoy
respect.
It. Yeah. I don't know what you would do otherwise. Yeah. Sometimes I do wonder what some people do, especially when you hear them play. You sort of think, well, why haven't you been
practicing? You've done this for 30 odd years. You know what?
Oh, that's a bit cruel, but you know what I'm saying.
We had a podcast recently with a lady called Emma Marshall, and something she said really struck me. And she's got like a PhD in
I think I watched that one actually.
Studying music and health and the like goodness of music. And she said to me, like, your work rate is because you need music more than most. You need that connection to keep. And like, sometimes I'll wake up and I'll say to Sonia, how lucky am I that I can share this with people
Yeah,
around the clock? So why, and I know you're the same, not speaking for you, but why wouldn't we wake up in the morning and make music or push music or celebrate music?
I love it. I'm sure you know this already, but and I'm sure some people who listen to the podcast know I had a really bad car accident about 8 months ago, and I don't even know how I came out of it all right, to be honest. It was really quite horrible, and I've had 8 months of I've literally had to lay down for 4 days a week, then get up and then work to get my sets ready, go out, play, be driven to places to play, and then driven back, and then go back to bed until Thursday, then get up and then work for a couple of days to get the stuff back together. And that's what I've had to do for 8 months, and it's been a killer to suppress myself, whereas I'm normally in that studio doing, because I play so many different styles, I'd spend all my time making and editing music, so I've had to just lay in bed and not try to focus on it.
You've been so upbeat and positive through it though, and
sometimes I think it's important to just have a bit of like show face, really. Do you know what I mean? And just crack on.
Yeah.
I'm not one of those people. I don't ever want anyone to feel sorry for me. That's not really why I'm saying it. I'm just sort of laying it out there that's what I've had to do. And it's been, that's the thing that I've found the toughest, even though it's taken a while to just get the bones to heal back together, because I broke my back. So it was like, it weren't very pleasant. Yeah.
Yeah. Has it scared you to get back in the car and go to the gigs?
It hasn't been too bad, although I've had a couple of moments where I've been driven by other people where I thought,
slow down.
Do you think you could just like remember why you're driving us? You know, I'm not saying. Don't get me wrong. I've had a lot of other friends who've driven me who've been amazing and really looked after us, and my wife has really looked after me. You know, through it all. You know, she's been absolutely amazing. You know, but yeah, there have been a couple of moments in the car where I thought, I think it's when you look at the speedo. So I weren't really going fast when it happened. I was only doing 70. I was doing the national speed limit on the motorway, and then a car pulled out of my way, and then I kind of looked over that way and think, what's he doing, the idiot? And then I looked back round and thought, oh my God, and went straight into the back of a VW camper van, and it was not nice. I mean, the car's just flat. It just squashed. And I honestly, the people that were in the car behind me, I won't go on about it too much, but the people that were in the car behind me who didn't crash into me, they got out and they pulled me out of the car, and then the three of us were hugging each other because we couldn't believe that I was still all right. That I didn't have any facial injuries or anything. But yeah, I broke my back, which weren't great, unfortunately. And it's just taken a while for it to be all right. Funnily enough, the last 2 weeks, I've actually got a bit of a spring in my step. And,
well, we've just walked, haven't we? We just walked from the station.
I'm feeling all right now.
Feeling and looking good.
I'm feeling really. Honestly, I'm overjoyed. The last 2 weeks, don't ask why. It just seems to have somehow finally knitted all back together. And you know, I mean, I've been okay. I've been, you know, the thing is that they said you can't stop. You have to keep moving. It's straight after the accident. They were like, right, you need to get on your feet. I'm like, really? Right, okay. I was a bit surprised, but
I've seen you a fair few times. You played for us at Ministry.
Yeah.
You played at my 35.
Yeah.
We DJ'd together in Liverpool on Saturday. And like you wouldn't. No. If I get a bad back, just standing over the decks.
Oh no, but this is the thing. My lifeblood has been going out and playing that music.
Yeah,
that's been my entire. That has been my release. You know, I've probably been an absolute moany git all week long, literally, like, and then get up, and then as soon as you go out and you see people, this is the other thing as well. We'll kind of leave it after this point, but how kind people have been, and the amount of love there's been has really kept us going. Yeah, it really has.
Being out at the weekend just drives people like us, doesn't it? It's literally how it gives us energy. It gives us
it's
inspiration.
a shot in the arm. It really is. That has been when I'm stood and I'm playing. I don't know about stood, but when I'm in front of the decks and feeding off that energy that the crowd's giving you, that's been the thing that's been keeping me going, really. So it's been so thanks to everybody for being so kind to us, really. And
power of music.
Yeah,
music
totally.
Is medicine.
Yeah, it totally is. But I'm feeling good now. I've been in the studio all this week. I've been in the studio all last week. And the other thing as well is sometimes you do need to sometimes take a little step back to get some fresh impetus. And now I'm fully firing now.
No one would think you were 59 and has had a broken back in the year 2025. Back to 88, 89.
Yes.
I'm so happy that you mentioned Trevor Fung and Evil Eddie Richards. Like anyone with legendary status who's sat in that chair, whether it's Mr. C, whether it's Fabio, whether it's LSD, whether it's you. All of you mention Evil Eddie Richards and Trevor Fung. Wow. All of you.
They just, like I say, Eddie is a great DJ without even mixing the music. It was just the choices that he was making next. And also, the other thing that Eddie taught us as well is the power of contrast in music. Out of the light comes the dark, and out of the dark comes the light. And that's something that's stuck with me forever. And he's a god for me, I absolutely look up to him as I occasionally message him and, we converse, and I've told him about those days because, it's like, when we were walking here and we were talking about your lifestyle and your lifetime around this area of Wood Green, and all the things that have happened to you. He's part of that journey, he is that man,
Yeah. Mate, listen, he's someone I want in this seat. I absolutely want him in this seat because he is an inspiration and an inspiration to not just people individually, like your story,
collectively,
but the overall, not just UK, not Europe, but the world of dance music. Because everyone, even though at large the music originally was filtered in from America, he was someone who was one of the first, in the handful of people who were
just had his finger on the pulse.
Who was a messenger and playing it to people. And Rave, as the concept of that 88, 89 scene, then travelled back around the world, even though a large amount of the music was American. So your first raves, your first rave experiences in 88, 89.
Summer of Love, we were going to the Astoria before that, and we used to go to the Soul to Soul stuff as well. And then out of that came going to the Back to the Futures. And bearing in mind as well that it was there was a lot of jazz, funk and soul things that where you just go to an ordinary club in a Oxford shirt and blazer and like brogues and all the rest of it and dance all night to jazz funk, so I was into that sort of side of things, but my mate was friends with this girl who went out with Tony Colson Hater, and I went to their place one Saturday afternoon and they said, "Oh, do you want to come to this rave?" I said, "Rave?" Explain. They were like, well, you don't have to wear your suit or anything, you know what I mean? Sometimes I used to wear a polo neck jumper with a blazer and all that shit back in those days, and they're like, you don't need all that, you can just wear whatever you want, probably don't wear that, I would say, so then we turned up there, we went in his like Ford Escort estate, like the old red Ford Escort estate, and we met at the bus station in central Milton Keynes. just the same as the stories that so many people have told in terms of, nobody knew where the rave was going to be. We just turned up and we just followed the convoy. Somebody had an old, the mobile phone, like the
Brick.
old, I always remember, the brick, I used to work in the car trade for a little while as well. And whenever the car traders used to come in, they used to have the phone with, had a wire on it and everything. Do you know what I mean? Like a pack. It had a pack on it, and then so you'd see somebody there, don't have their elbow right out like that, right, we got the location, and then off we went with probably, I don't know, maybe 50, 60 cars to Santa Pod, which is not that far really. I think it's off junction 15, 16, isn't it, of the M1. It's only a few junctions up, it's like 3 junctions up. Turned up there, came off at Santa Pod. Now, it is in the middle of nowhere, isn't it, Santa Pod? It's an old race track, drag racing track, and we pulled off, and then there was people with torches, like the security with the big like mag light torches, like waving people in, and then we went in, and then there was a fairground there, you could see this like big, I don't even know what it was, like one of them things, a centrifuge thing there, and I could see that, and then you get closer to it, and the excitement that you felt, it's like, I don't know, it's like the oasis in the desert, where you think, I'm going to get that drink of water now. Do you know what I mean? And and then we went in there, and I will say one thing about their raves was they were very well organised. They're right from the off. They were incredibly well. He used to walk around. Colson Hayter used to walk around with like a clipboard. Do you know what I mean? It was like properly like orchestrated. But I just remember, it was just amazing. Just that feeling of just doing something new. That kind of like, it's like. Because at the time there was football violence and all that stuff and racism. Now, don't get me wrong, of course, there's still that now. It's come back, which is horrible.
Which is horrible to
absolutely
see.
disgusting.
Yeah.
I really don't like it at all.
We've gone backwards.
Awful. Absolutely awful.
Some people have gone completely and
They've
utterly
forgotten.
backwards.
They've actually forgotten the words to the songs that we loved. In terms of like, Promised Land and Sterling Void and all them things that
Phase
brought us
2
back.
Reaching Someday, all those records,
It's like,
mate.
I find that very sad.
Yeah.
And that's what I loved, was it unified us all. It actually made everybody come towards each other. And I can remember being at that first rave and hearing Strings of Life for the first time, and then seeing these 2 geezers stood there, and then they're like, when the music takes hold, and they started, and then they were like dancing with each other, and then I could hear their conversation, and he was like, "Where are you from?" And he was like, the conversation got to football, and he's like, I'm Chelsea, and he's like, I'm Arsenal. He said, any other day that would be a problem, but right now, give me a cuddle. And you sort of think, wow, right, okay, it's broken down so many barriers, that music, that atmosphere, just everything about it. And I know that we are very, we're very romantic about it, but it was new.
But do you know
brand
what?
new.
For me, there's a whole lot of truth in it, and I live my life by it now. I live my life by that. And it's nothing to do, like then, yes, ecstasy collides with music, but now as 50 to 60-year-old people with family, children, friends, I live my life by it. Because it's the truth. There's good and bad in humans.
Yeah, there is.
Bad humans over there, and good humans with a good heart, and that togetherness spirit is not just for the dance floor; it's for life.
It is, and it was just a magical time. It was a magical time with a magical new music, that had lent from other places as well. That sometimes I could hear that influence. I could hear where it had come from. When you hear tracks, I mean, probably a couple of years later, but when you hear Asher, JJ Tribute, and you think, right, It's Janis Joplin.
Yeah.
It's a Janis Joplin sample. You know, I loved that it was so, that it brought things in from so many different other styles of music. Sampling was a thing. It's a brand new thing, being able to sample other people's records, even if you could only do it for 8 seconds.
Well, like you say, Shaft.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and I think that all of that is what made it so special. And that particular rave was just insanely good. And Adamski played live, and I'd never even heard of him. And then you hear him, and he's doing Killer and
Did you know he played
NRG.
the piano on Jimmy Polo, Better Day?
I didn't know that, actually.
Well, I never
wow.
knew that until one of my rave stories about 8
Wow,
years ago.
never
And
knew
he was
that.
on stage, and he said, and he just revealed it to the
Wow.
audience. He played the piano on Jimmy
Wow.
Polo, Better Day. Yeah.
Absolute tune. That first EP that he did with the Lucasade bottle on it, with the NRG on it. Wow, just unbelievable. So this is the thing as well. I think back in those times, some of those people that brought that, what I called at the time, because I came out the soul side of things, it was kind of machine music. Do you know what I mean? But the reason that it was so good was because it was actually musicians taming machines.
I like that. Musicians taming machines.
That's what I feel.
And now what do we have? We have AI dictating to humans
in the
creation of music.
But the funny thing about that is that I have dipped my toe in the water of that a little bit.
I love AI.
You know, it's
I love
very
ChatGPT.
very, very clever. It's, you know, I mean, you know, it's insanely clever. I have no idea where it's going to end up. Funnily enough, last night I was watching some stuff on this new thing. It's not even new. I think it's probably 6 or 7 months old, called Spawn, right. where it's an AI. It can generate chords and sounds and things that you couldn't even think about. I watched somebody making this version of No Scrubs, and like just using the AI, and it just made it sound massive.
Yeah,
like music on steroids. You know, I mean,
mate, it's absolutely incredible.
I think you've got to embrace anything. Anybody who's sort of, you know, I'm really sorry to say it, but sometimes I do find that, you know, that sometimes like the purist side of things, it's all well and good, but you've learned to use the new technology. I've learned to use it. Several other people have. I think it's very important that you don't just get caught with just trying to.
I love the future.
God, embrace
Even if
it.
I don't know it, I love the potential and where the future can take us. Back to the Future.
Yeah.
So from that Back to the Future event, your life, your what happened?
So after that, and thinking, oh, right, this looks quite interesting. I like I say, I ended up going into the forces for a while. Then I came out of the forces, and I ended up. I didn't do all. I was supposed to do 5 years. I ended up doing 4 years, and I met a girl whose dad owned 2 BMW dealerships in Maidenhead and Slough, and he bought me out of the RAF because he wanted me to work for his company. And
he brought you out of the RAF.
Yeah. You can pay your way out. You can pay to finish your term.
He must have really liked you.
He did like me. Yeah, he did like me. And
how much did that cost to
I
buy
actually
you
don't
out?
think it cost very much money. I think it cost about 600 sheets, I think.
He thought you were the one for his daughter, didn't he?
I think he did. Unfortunately.
He liked you.
Yeah, unfortunately. She was a bit hard work, unfortunately, in the end. You don't want to go too much into that, but
they thought they owned you, didn't they? we brought you out, buying you out. Wow.
So
I've never heard of that before.
Yeah. It's a thing. So I ended up working for him in Maidenhead, and it turns out that that's right on the M25 where all those parties were, and so it meant that I could go to all of those parties. There was one in Cherry Tree Lane. It's like about 2 miles from where I lived in Maidenhead, and it just gave me a bit of a taste for, you know, buying the music. So I used to go from Maidenhead into London every week on my day off, and buy music from Nicky at Black Market.
Nicky,
Yeah,
Black Market.
yeah. I saw him the other week actually when we were over in Benidorm doing a gig, and I was telling him about that. I have spoken to him about it in the past, but like he's there like, oh, there you go. There's like Mr. Fingers, and there's Salsa House and Ralphie Rosario.
Oh, come on, Hot Mix 5. You used to hold me. Come on,
and Sueno Latino, and
Sueno
all those sort of
Latino,
records. So he
really.
sold me all those records, but I didn't have a way of playing those records, so I just became a bit of a collector of music. And then I ended up where it didn't work out in with this girl, and
being bought by the family.
this BMW dealership business. So where you think, oh no, I need to get out of here. And my best mate, who I went to all those Back to the Futures at, he ended up living in Manchester because he went to university in Manchester. And then he called me and he said, mate, not being funny, those parties that we've been to that have been amazing, I might have found something that's trumped it. I'm like, get off. He's like, yeah, seriously, I found this thing called the Hacienda. And I was like, oh, that sounds interesting. And I said, well, when's that on? He said, it's on a Wednesday and it's on a Friday. You should come up. And it was Wednesday. And I said, I'll see you tonight. And I know this is quite bad, but I borrowed a car from the compound.
Right.
and I
Well,
drove
a nice way of putting it. Borrowed the car.
from the dealership, yeah, and drove up to Manchester, parked it round the back of the Hacienda, went in there, changed my mindset completely. It had a kind of like cylindrical sort of sound to the place, like if you imagine how great some of those records, the rhythm is rhythm stuff, that kind of like, those donkey kind of basses that were in them, all that kind of Robin Wants Revenge.
Oh, come on.
Them sort of sounds, but in that building, it had a wooden floor, but it had a very high ceiling with like a balcony above it, sort of that looked down onto the dance floor. And the sound just used to kind of like resonate round. It was a strange kind of amazing, I can't really even describe it, just a brilliant sound to it. And then everybody was just loving life, and I just remember going there and then just thinking, wow, I'll see you on Friday. So I drove
what was
back.
that, 88 or 89? 1988.
Yeah, 88. So then I drove back, worked for a couple of days. This is just before I left the deal. This is the thing. So I'd ended up doing this virtually every week for probably 6 months or so. And then I thought to myself, why do I even live in Maidenhead when I love being up there? And it weren't going very well with my girlfriend. So I packed all my stuff in the car one Friday night and drove up as far as Watford Gap Services near Northampton sort of direction. Called her off a payphone to say, look, I'm leaving. In fact, I've left, and called my boss at work as well and said, I'm off, I'm gone. Just like, I don't want any money or anything. I'm just out. Yeah. And drove up with all my stuff in the car.
Your records? You had your records?
Yeah.
Good,
but I mean, at that point, I probably only had about this many records.
That's the start.
Yeah. But enough to
it's getting juicy, this, bro. Come on.
Drove up to the Hacienda on the Friday night, left all my stuff in the car around the back of the Hacienda, went in, partied all night, then stayed with my mate, and then he just let me live at his house for a short time, which was just outside Manchester. And then we ended up renting a house in Rochdale, which is right on the corner of Manchester. It's like North Manchester. We lived there, and then that is when I moved to Manchester, I started working for a Vauxhall dealership, and opposite the Vauxhall dealership, this is coming back to your double decks thing. The guy right opposite the Vauxhall dealership, there was a disco hire shop, called I think it was Les Adams music or something, and I used to go in there and like just shoot the breeze with this guy, and I hired a double decks off him to try to learn how to do this. And then I realised, right, these things have got no pitch controls on, you know, like them really old, proper old console, you know, like with wooden sides to it and everything. So then I went to Tandy and I bought a realistic mixer, one of them little black mixers.
That's a rite of passage, right?
In it, yeah. Bought that, and I had my dad's Technics deck, and my mate Dan, who I went to live with, he had a deck as well. Plugged them into that on a Saturday afternoon. He was out somewhere. I plugged it all in, and then put 2 tracks on, and then thought, right, here we go. What you got to do is just like change the fader, and then they'll mix. And they did it, and it was. I was like, bloody hell! I must have it wired up wrong. Do you know what I mean? I did that all over the place. Jesus Christ! Tried this all afternoon. Tried wiring it different ways. Couldn't get the things to mix, you know. And then my mate Dan come back. He's like, mate, you've actually got to like get them in time, and you know, because he used to be into like DMC stuff and you know hip hop. So sorry, we completely missed out. I used to love hip hop as well. Original, proper, old school Public Enemy, Lakim Shabazz, like
Lakim Shabazz,
proper, you know, 909, 45 King, all that, all
Tough
that
City Records,
all that stuff. You know, Roxanne Shante, you know, loved her. So anyway, so he had more of an understanding of it than I did, and then he sort of showed me a little bit of how they just needed to be in time, and that is what then set that. I'm one of them people. I've got such a like an addictive kind of like sort of mindset.
Obsessive.
Oh, I'm like, right, I need to learn how to do this properly, and then we just used to spend every waking hour practicing to try to make that work. And then I started making tapes and then trying to get out on the circuit. And in the meantime, I used to go and buy records in Eastern Bloc Records in Manchester, which is one of the most famous record stores in Manchester. There's Spinning as well, which was incredibly popular as well. But Eastern Bloc, you used to go in there and it used to be one of them places where everybody was queuing to get them records, you know, and they were like the gatekeepers of the records. Do you know what I mean? And there was sometimes you'd be like, I want this particular track, and you knew that they had it, but it was whether they would give it to you. You know, that kind of, you know,
hierarchy.
It used to be like, and sometimes they'd make you buy several records to get that one record. You know, like, oh, these are my personal recommendations. You must remember them days.
Come on,
oh
mate.
My God!
And you that cutting your teeth in the car salesman trade. You knew what they were doing to you, didn't you?
Of course, I knew. And sometimes as well, I used to go in there. Don't get me wrong, I was friends with a couple of them, but there were a couple of boys in there who, you know, you think if they were on the till, it could be an issue to get what you wanted, you know. And there was a couple of people in there. Sometimes you
basically, some record shop people were power freaks.
They were
absolutely power hungry,
massively so. And I can remember being in there one day, and I. You know, I wanted this particular. I can't remember what it was now, but I wanted this track, and he was like, "Yeah, no problem, mate. Yeah, I'm just going out the back to get it." And then I was stood there for a good 15, 20 minutes. You know, when you're thinking, where's he gone?
Yeah.
So I kind of went to the edge of the counter, the other edge of the counter, and I looked in the back, and he was in there eating his sandwiches. And then he came back out because he didn't see me. And then I moved back to my position where I was, you know, and then he came back and it was like, no, mate, we ain't got it.
Mate, do you know what?
You know,
I love record shopping. But
people don't forgive. People don't never talk about them.
In record shops, there has been arseholes over the years.
There
really has. And like, I'm just remembering back to, there has been do you know what? Even to this day in certain record shops, there's still that hierarchy of people who work in shops. Thankfully, there's not as many record shops around. But now and again, you do get, do you know what's even worse? When you go car booting for records, you get some absolute arse with his second-hand £1 frisbees, still being all guarded and protected.
It's very strange. It's a control. It's a control thing. I just think people forget that side of things. Don't get me wrong. It was an amazing community spirit in places, but it's always been a bit of a competition as well.
Do you know what? I think this is something really, and I'd never really say this on podcasts, but I think that people should discuss their bad record shop experiences underneath because it's like, I've had like Ray Keefe here, I've had Nicky Black Market here, and we've all just spoke so fondly of record shopping. But actually, there is a truth. Beyond the truth, it's a reality.
It is a reality.
That a
I'm
whole
afraid
bag
it is,
of record shops really did have people who worked behind that counter who were tossers.
Well, they just needed to make sure that they kept them records. Some of the people were keeping them records because they were going to have them. Yeah, you know, because they didn't want they didn't want you to get above them because you played at some places that they were playing at. You know, as it went on later on. You know,
I've just remembered something. right. So when I started in Pull for Music over in Whitechapel, and I was 14 when I started in there, and then I'm remembering now to like 1990. Dave, the owner, sometimes say if we'd like overstocked on something, he would know the customers who had an ear. And he would know the customers who would buy anything.
Oh my God! I just
so Dave would be like, there's. And he wouldn't have to say nothing. He would just like look at me or Eamon or Mervyn and go, okay.
Yeah. Well, you got to sell that stuff.
Do you?
It's a sales job. And sometimes it would be a case of with certain records, you know, they'd come out the back and they'd be like, oh my God, we got a box of these. Oh my God. And everyone would be like, oh my God, just give me this. Wouldn't even listen to it. It'd be like, it's like,
do you know something else I'm thinking before we get back to your first gigs, right?
It's not bitching.
No. I think it's something that everyone's got to like hone in on. I think
it's important to not be so romantic to forget that there was this stuff that happened, you know.
You know what? I get a lot under my videos with Nicky and Ray.
Yeah.
I get this so much. We come out of the black market with so many shit records.
Oh, really?
Ray and Nicky.
But you know, the thing is, though, sorry, I want to make sure that it's very clear. They never did that to me. But he sold me some of the best records I've ever owned, you know, as well as the same thing with many other, even people in the same shop.
Yeah.
You know, it was a case of who was working. You know, what your record shopping experience was going to be like. There was times because I used to travel, and I know you do this already. You still do this now. You know, I mean, I used to finish work on DJing on a Saturday, and then I used to fly to Holland to go and buy records. Wow. You know, in the early days of trance and hard trance and all that kind of stuff. If you wanted that music, if you wanted it from the source, you had to go and buy it there. You know, and I used to fly into Holland to go and buy records, and it was who was working there. Yeah. Sometimes you had to find out whether it was their day in or their day off, because if it was their day off, what's the point in going? Because you wouldn't get the crisp biscuits. Yeah. But those guys at Black Market, they gave me the cream of the crop. They really did. You know, he didn't know me. He knew me, but he didn't know what I did or anything.
Impeccable taste, like some of the people who come under my post who are like, yeah, I really didn't know what I was buying, and I got offloaded with all the dog shit.
Absolute dross. I've definitely,
over the years,
you know, and like I say, there was definitely a little bit of at some record shops, you know, they'd be like, they're my personal recommendations. So you had to buy them first to get to the other stuff. I think that's
when you not going forward too much, but when you got a name for yourself and then all the record shops had a box or a bag.
Yeah, bag for you.
You felt good then, didn't
amazing.
you? Yeah, I've made it
Felt
now.
amazing.
I've got a box and a bag. Yeah, and when the record shop learns what your style is, boom.
Oh, there you go. Oh, it
yeah.
felt great. I've fallen foul of that a few times as well, because I used to buy a lot of music off of there's a shop in Oxford called Massive Records.
Oh, great. Yeah, I remember
Joanna
Massive.
from
Yeah.
Massive. Now, don't get me wrong, she used to serve me up some of the best music, but it was that period in my life where I probably had more money than sense. Absolutely, 100%, definitely more money than sense, and I just forget to return them. So they used to send me a box, like with however many goes into a like a little cardboard box.
Yeah.
And they used to send me one of them every week, and then it was my job to listen to the music and send them back. Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And if you didn't do it within a certain length of time, you couldn't return them, because that was the deal. And the amount of times I used to think, to go to the post office with those,
I was the same. I was the
80
same.
quid's worth of records.
Remember John Weatherly? He used to send me stuff up,
Yeah.
all the time. And, do you remember the days when you'd be connected with like 5 to 10 record shops, and you'd have a shop that, I'm saying Brighton, John Weatherly would play your tunes down the phone, and you'd order them like that. Then you'd go, you'd go into London to get your record shops. You'd go out. In my case, it'd be go further up north. And it was such a culture as a DJ. Yeah, great times.
Well, the great times though. This is the thing. I wouldn't change any of it. That very first little experience was some of the worst experiences, but once people did get to know you and knew what you did and knew what you were about and heard your tapes and all the rest of it, they would then serve you up with some
and look after
gems, absolute gems. I used to shop with there's a record shop in Leeds called the Listening Booth, run by the rave legend called Steve Luigi, who he comes out of the Northern Soul scene, and then he became a rave DJ, and he's the first person to bring actual rave, like 91 kind of, the proper hardcore rave, and Italian stuff, Last Rhythm, all that kind of stuff, and Catherine E and all them sort of records.
I love Catherine E.
Beautiful record. What a tune. And he used to really look after us. Record shopping. I do miss it. Of course I miss it. I definitely miss it compared to sort of like, the soulless experience of searching for. Although I do still like the trawl. I'm sure you're the same. Bandcamp is a great experience.
Yeah, I was using Bandcamp yesterday. I still love trawling through records.
Bandcamp I really enjoy, because it gives you the chance to not only listen to that track, but then it shows you all the other people who've bought that record, and it still allows you to then look at what they bought.
Bandcamp's wonderful.
And I find that a good experience, whereas, and I hate to say it, but I think Beatport really is lacking in terms of how on earth you can't get the categories right for some stuff, and you can't have a hard house category, and and so many, you have so many stupid genres, where you think bloody romantic techno,
romantic techno. So I haven't used Beatport. I don't think I've brought anything from Beatport for 14, 15 years. Juno I do actually. I really like Juno. I've been
it's a bit more
customer,
like a record shop.
I've been a customer of Juno for a good 20 plus years, from even before it being digital. And but Beatport is one where yesterday I was going through it, and I just randomly stumbled on an American artist who just made this really interesting glitchy jungle breakbeat music, which isn't released on Juno or Beatport or anything like that, and isn't released on vinyl. So that need to dig in us never ever goes.
No.
But even, and do you know what the thing is now with digital digging? I call it digital digging if you like on Beatport. Back to that point of people going, they serve me some shit. Sometimes I'll buy like 50, 100 quid's worth of downloads, £1 a track, go through them all, and I think, why the fuck did I buy that? But
the music's a mood, isn't it? And when you're in a good mood, sometimes you're like, oh yeah, woo, and then you think. In fact, going back to the vinyl side of things as well, and going to record shops. How many times have you come out of record shops and you got home and you thought they've removed somewhere between being at the record shop and getting home? All the good stuff that I thought was on this record is not on here anymore.
Yes.
How's that happen?
Yes,
How
mate.
does that actually happen? Sometimes I think, is this a track that I was listening to in the shop? Because this isn't it, is it? Where's the bit?
Do you think, though, before we get back to your first gigs...
Sorry,
No, I'm loving it.
Got off on a ramble
as DJs, even now, at the times that we're at, I think it is essential to overload ourselves, though, with music and discovery. Yeah. Even if, like, it is, you know, a pound MP3 doesn't hurt as much as, like, when you was younger, a £6 record. Do you ever give you know, on Beatport, not Beatport, on Bandcamp, you know, when it says minimum price £1, I always give more.
I do. I do sometimes. Yeah. It depends on what the track is. If it's just like something where I'm not too sure whether I'm going to play it or not, and it's a punt, then I might not do. But there are some tracks where you think, just give them a bit more money. Yeah. You know, I mean, that's the thing that I love about Bandcamp is that you actually get to give that money to the artist, and that artist gets to interact with you, and they you know, then they can send you you know, their new releases, and you know, what their release schedule is. Bandcamp is way better than there's a big furor at the moment with the Spotify thing, and that guy, he's the devil, right? As far as I'm concerned, I hate to say it, and I feel quite strongly about it. It's
Come on, Rob.
It's what is going on? Why on earth, when you think that there is a thing, there is a company out there called the Musicians Union, right? Okay, that is supposed to protect all musicians. Where are they to stop people like that from giving you no money? I sometimes wish that we could all kind of unite and just say, nah, we're not giving you our music, mate. Where they can now turn our music into AI content. Yeah. They can use our music to feed AI to make music that sounds like us.
Do you want me to fuel this conversation even more before we get back to your first gig?
Yeah, go for it.
I've been having a thought about this. And it's probably why I'm so hell-bent on long-form, hour and a half, 2 hour interviews with my friends. Yeah. It's why I do more radio than ever, 2 hour long shows. It's why I ask the majority of promoters that I'm playing for, I want a minimum of 2 hours. Yeah. Next year, I've got 3 hour sets, 5 hour sets, 6 hour sets. I'm looking down at the TikTok, Spotify generation of artists. And some of those artists, most artists, it takes 10 years to become an overnight success, whoever you are. Whoever you are. And I'm now seeing artists who have been grafting for 20 odd years, 30 years in some instances, get to their point, and they'll do these short videos, 10 seconds, where it just plays a little bit of their tune, and they'll have influencers dancing to these tunes, which then feeds into Spotify, which may only get them 100,000 streams, that may only make them 100 or 150 pound. So ultimately, you're dumbing down your tune by saying my tune's only worth 10 seconds to get your enthusiasm for me, to get your eyes, and then hopefully it will drive you over to here. And I think that in a world that moves so fast, in a culture where we're literally like this, scrolling, if we're in a point where our art is only worth 10 seconds in the hope that it will get a play for 10 seconds or a minute on Spotify, I believe me and you, we're older, so hindsight's a wonderful thing. But also those who have come after us, if it's 10 years after us, 20 years after us, I believe that we owe our art, and we owe the love to the history of the culture of the art, the music, all of these things, we are worth more than 10 seconds of scrolling.
Yeah,
and it's
absolutely,
down to us to use our knowledge and authenticity to get. It's like with my content I do on YouTube. On TikTok, Facebook, Insta. It's always 1 minute to 3 minutes long. I'm not, if it's only going to be like a second scroll, you know. And I think we're in a dangerous position for artists young and old who are dumbing themselves down for the internet to get 100,000, even 1 million streams. If you're fortunate to get 1 million streams, well done. But
I feel that I owe it to say on the podcast that watching some of what's going on with Spotify, you know, I don't know how aware everybody is of what's going on with them, but they are using the money to further themselves and to buy shares in AI weapons companies. It's like they've got shares in that company Helsing, which is building like drones for war. What are we doing? I mean, surely that can't be right. And he's also giving money. He's giving money to ICE and MAGA and all those guys. It's like, what? Why are we doing that? You know, and he's like parking his yacht off of Ibiza. It's like something off the Death Star, it's like a Bond villain. As far as I'm concerned, and I don't like it, and I've not really been very vocal about it up until this point.
So there's lots of double-edged swords here, then, isn't there? There's where the money's going, and then also the dumbing down.
But he's not paying artists. That's the thing. Is he gives the absolute bare minimum that he can to an artist. Now, I don't make money. I don't make music to make money. I have done in the past because there was money in music, funnily enough, you know, where you make a record and you get a 25 grand advance or whatever. You know,
they were good days, Rob.
They were all right. They weren't bad.
Days, yeah.
It's a night out, wasn't it? 25 grand. But I'm not saying it because of that kind of bitterness, because I think that you should get that. But I do think that people should get paid for their art. Yeah. You know, it's like you wouldn't go to an art gallery and just like think, oh well, I'll just give you 5 pence for that. You know, it's like you should get paid for what you make. You know, everybody should do.
I'll break something down for you. I have friends who do get millions of streams.
Yeah.
And I know the money they make from their millions of streams, and I know the hundreds, thousands of shares and collaborations they need to do with influencers who might not even be aligned to them musically or culturally, right? I know what they make from like really being in that system, and in a lot of ways, a lot of people really do sell their art out and themselves versus when I release a record that sells 300 or 500 and what that, so me and my friends have made our music, we've made our art, and then I'm like, who wants to buy, you know, who wants to buy this tune? We've pressed 300 and people have messaged me and I'll sell 300 to 500 like that. And it's a personal connection. Yeah. Two, it's between me and the artist and our buzz. Yeah. Then I invite people in to, I get everyone to message, you know how I promote, message me. I message everyone back personally. Hello, Dave. Hello, Sue. Hello, blah, blah, blah. Because I want to connect with those people. And them 300 to 500 records make far more money than 2 or 3 million streams.
They absolutely do, don't they? And the same goes, going back to the Bandcamp thing, that money goes to you. You know, they take a percentage of it, but it's not a massive percentage, and it feels like you can make money out of music. You know, I mean, I've got a Bandcamp where I put out some bootleg stuff. You know, under RT Project and a few other bits and pieces, and make way more out of those.
I think Bandcamp should be really looking after you and giving you a sponsorship deal after you've absolutely.
I just think it's worth pointing out to people that is a way for people to get paid.
Yeah.
rather than paying all that money to one person, where they are now making people unemployed, and they're stripping their workforce down so that they can have more AI workers for, more AI working for them, so that they can make even more money and pay even less money to musicians. It just seems a bit wrong to me.
So
anyway, I didn't mean to go on about it too much. But
listen,
but
I
it's
think
very important that people
think
understand the actual dynamic of that, because it's not cool.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating that you feel to bring that up. Because I think it is really interesting, and I think people will take something from that.
I hope they do.
It's such a topic at the moment, because it's a split. Like, me and you won't get booked because we've got 1 million streams. Me and you get booked because we got 35 years behind us, and people trust us to wherever we go in the country. But a lot of people half our age, even DJs who are our age, who are finally making a name for themselves, they're in this lost place. If we don't get the streams on Spotify, we might not get the bookings. Hindsight's a good thing for us. We're not in that place.
The hindsight-oscope. That's what we need.
But so it is a hard thing for artists. They're in a rock and a hard place. They need the streams. They do need their 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 million streams to make their thousands of pounds.
I do understand it. I do understand it. It's just like, I just don't.
The moral compass isn't right.
It isn't right. It isn't right. But I have never made money. I've never made music to make money. I have made money out of music, but that's been a byproduct of enjoying what I was doing with the people that I love, for the people who love what we do and we love them. That's it's expressionism.
Rob, whenever I've tried to make money, I never have.
I think it's hard to do it that way.
Mate, it's like you get these motivational speakers. You must reach for the money. You must get. It's never worked for me. If I make any money out of the thing that I'm passionate and I love, awesome. That's it for me. I'm not that materially minded, and that's not the reason for saying it. I just think it's worth pointing out to people that they're just have a look. Just have a look on. Do you know when I realised the importance of passion, and you don't know when it's going to reward you, is my moment in happy hardcore, if you like, was only for 2 years. And my energy was humongous in it. Like, I just had so much energy. And then I had a lot of energy. Imagine what I was like at 20 to 25 when I'm like this at 50, right? And then I got bored with it. Or I wanted to do other things, because 2 years, you think with the amount of music that we all moved through in a short space of time in 88 to 93, that to be stuck in one place, or it didn't infuse me enough, right?
No.
And I went off and did other things, but lots of my hardcore friends stuck around, right? But I couldn't, and I kind of moved on when it got to its biggest, because I wanted to do other things. It wasn't till 10 years later, when you talk about big deals, Ministry of Sound signed me, and we started tapping into that youthful energy that I'd had 10 years previous. And that's when I worked out your passions in music will reward you at the least expected time.
That's true, yeah. Sometimes,
If you had the right energy and the right passions, trust me, it will. No amount of hard work in the moment's going to make it work for you there and then, but every form of passion and energy will at some point reward you.
Something just a spark ignites, doesn't it? And off you go down a different road.
And you do get, if your energies and your passions and your loves for what you do is aligned, especially in creativity, music, you do get rewarded.
Yeah, I cannot complain one little bit about anything that I've done, and what I've done with music, out of music. I can't complain about it. I'm just pointing out to some people that there's that dynamic, it doesn't sit well with me. That it feels like the biggest rock and roll swindle of all time for me. That's what it feels like,
And you speak from experience because you've done so much. You've been at every end of. You've had massive top 40s.
I can't complain.
And you've done underground releases.
Yeah.
First DJ gigs from those mixtapes in 88, 89, discovering the Hacienda.
Yeah. So doing the tapes, I gave a tape to Mike Nola, who's the resident at Quadrant Park. I mentioned this to you on the way here. I used to be a sales rep. When I first moved up to Manchester, I sold cars for a little while for Vauxhall, and then I ended up renting a unit which was like a tiny, literally big enough to just put my decks in. It's like a bloody store cupboard in this place in Chinatown in Manchester. And I used to make my tapes in there. And then the people that were in the unit next door, they came and knocked on my door one day and said, "Hey, like, we always hear this music that you're putting together. We work with some people who are doing a fashion show, and we need some music for this fashion show. Do you want to come and do it?" I'm like, "Yeah, of course I do." I said, "What's it for?" He says, "It's for a brand called Gio Goy, which is like this old a classic clothing brand from Manchester, run by these guys called the Donnelly brothers." And these guys next door, they were putting together their fashion show basically, and I said, "Yeah, well, where is it and when is it?" It said, "It's a Thursday night. It's at the Hacienda." I'm like,
What? Dream come true.
I was like, "Gee whiz!" So I ended up going and doing this fashion show at the Hacienda. Met these guys, and then they knew that I sold cars, and they're like, "Well, we need a sales rep. Do you want to come and work for us?" I'm like, "Yeah, of course I do." So I ended up being the first sales rep for Gio Goy, and which then ended up taking me to loads of different towns to sell their clobber, to go to different really cool shops in Liverpool and Manchester and all over the kind of the north of England, really. And I'd been to Quadrant Park a couple of times, and I got the number of Mike Nola because it was on a flyer. I just called the number on the flyer just to see if I could give these guys a tape, and I called this guy, and he's like, yeah, well, come over if you. I said, "I'm coming over on a Friday afternoon. Can I come to the club that it was at?" It was like an old bloody carpet warehouse. Anyway, I went there, and I met this guy Mike Nola, who's a legend in Liverpool, and he was the resident at Quadrant Park. And I've given him the tape, and he called me back the week after. He's like, "Yeah, you can play." I'm like, "Oh!" So yeah, out of the back of that, I ended up. I only played from once, but it gave us a bit of credence to then be able to then get some other bits and pieces.
Right.
And
hang on.
Yeah.
As a southerner,
yeah.
Explain Quadrant Park.
Ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous.
Sorry to stop you, but my
it's fine.
southern youthfulness was like, tell
unbelievable
me about it.
Energy, unbelievable. So at that time, Andy Carroll was resident, Mike, and they used to have Laurent Garnier play, and John Kelly used to play as well. And Laurent Garnier was one of the first people that I heard playing tracks where he'd be playing something, and then he'd drop the riff in, from the other track. Let the bass kick, dum, bum, 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 and then back into the other track. And I'm like, oh my God,
cross-faded in,
cross-fade it in, and the energy in there was so raw. It was just amazing. That video clip that I should imagine everybody who loves rave has seen of them playing Enjoy Anthem.
Yeah, that's amazing.
It's insane. That energy, it was like that all night long. It was ridiculous in there. And people used to come from all over the place to go there because it was one of the only things that was on all night. It was on till I think it might have been on till at least 6 or 8 in the morning, and that was quite a rare beast. But sort of at the very same time as all of that, because I was living very close to Manchester and going in these record shops, there was a record shop that was opposite Eastern Bloc, and in there was a guy working in there who I got to know, over the counter. It turns out to be Adrian Lovedup from the Lovedup twins, and he asked me to come and play in Manchester at this thing called Isadora's, which I now know to be one of the first indie clubs that used to be like where the Inspire. In fact, we used to play in Spiral Carpets and all that, and Stone Roses and all that sort of stuff, and then play house, and then drop back into the indie, and and then play Young MC and all that kind of stuff. And out of the back of getting to know him, I then started to get involved in the kind of underground party scene.
This is the exciting bit, Rob.
and all the blues, and I used to, after Hacienda, I'd go to parties in Cheadle-Hulme in Manchester and play, and sometimes those guys from the Hacienda would turn up, and you'd be there playing like NWA, Fuck the Police, while the police were outside, and all that sort of nonsense, just like
you was a rebel, Rob.
I was at that time,
100%.
Absolutely, I was a rebel at that point, I knew this guy who lived in who was from Chorley, which is right next to Blackburn, but he lived in Milton Keynes when I was living in Milton Keynes, and then he always used to say to me, "You need to come up north, and you need to go to go to Chorley and all them sort of places." And I went with him one time, and he took me to this guy's place in Blackburn one night, and these kiddies came in to his house, and they were like, "Do you want to come to a party?" I said, "What sort of party?" He said, they're like, "Acid house party." I'm like, "Acid house? Now that sounds interesting. Of course I want to go to it." So we went to this warehouse that was in the centre of, not in the centre of Blackburn, but in amongst all them. It's a mill town, Blackburn. So there was loads of these old abandoned mills everywhere. And we went to this place. It had like all the windows kicked out of it, asbestos dust on the floor. There was like 300 people in there, if that. A guy playing Love Will Tear Us Apart, and then playing Jim Morrison speeches over the top of it, then playing Tony Scott, the Chief, and then, like proper random, and I just thought, compared to the very orchestrated Back to the Futures and the Sunrises and all of them parties that I used to go to, this was pure raw energy, like unbelievable. You couldn't, if you could have bottled it, you could have sold it for £1,000 a bottle. That kind of just beautiful kind of like camaraderie. Just I loved it, and I got to know these guys who were running these parties, and I became Cockney Rob. I probably don't sound very Cockney now. In fact, they used to call me Cockers. All right, Cockers.
You should have told me that. You should have told me that, Cockers. You really shouldn't have.
Cockney Rob, yeah. So and from being in the RAF and all that sort of stuff, what I've realised was that banter is very, very strong in the north. It's like you've got to be able to give it back. And I could give it back to them, and they loved it. Like they ribbed me, and then I'd just give it straight back to them, and they loved that. And we end up becoming really good friends. And then they started to let me play at some of these parties. I got a residency at a bar in Blackburn, which was where everybody used to meet to go to the parties. So everyone would go there, and then to get the word, on the phone, and then we'd all go to these parties, and these same people were running a pirate radio station called the BBC, Blackburn Buzz Corporation.
Yes,
beautiful, loved it. They used to do like a cartoon magazine, like where they'd actually illustrate it all. It used to take them bloody months to do all these like all the flyers, all those original flyers were all hand drawn flyers.
Love that. And you got any of them?
I've got some that I can show you. Yeah, I can access those flyers.
Yeah.
I'm still good friends with all those guys. I still play for some of those guys. The guys who were running those parties, run a thing that I play for in Blackburn still called High on Hope.
Amazing.
And they are still doing amazing parties with some of those still original ravers, as well as all the ravers families as well.
I love
all their
this.
cousins and nephews, nieces, we all party together now. And they're all really, they've got a very, very similar ethos because it's in their blood.
Yeah,
it's music from the womb,
mate.
you know. Yeah. So they started doing these little parties, 300 people. Then the next week, because it was on every week, of course, 500 people, 700 people, 1,000 people, and over the period of like 6 months, it grew to be about 7,000 to 10,000 people traveling into Blackburn to go to these parties. And I was very fortunate enough to get to play at some of them. And then that went on for about probably maybe 14 months or so.
What, from 89 to 90?
Yeah. So from the early part of, maybe even the late part of 88 into nearly 1990, I should imagine. It was 1990. Gee whiz, I'm not joking, mate. These parties were ridiculous. And I have been to some parties in my time, but I've not seen anything like the amount of love and energy in them parties was ridiculous. And I don't want to talk down on anything else that I've been to, because everybody's rave experiences will feel a bit like that. But I've literally danced on both sides.
But what fascinates me, Rob, is you partied at the best events in London that get told about in folklore and the mysticism. You moved to Manchester
I moved because of it.
the
Hacienda.
Hacienda.
I did.
But then the whole Blackburn scene has such a mythology about it, and you lived that as well.
I did.
I feel that you're talking more passionately about Blackburn than you are the other things.
I think it's because I'd done all that stuff, so I knew what that was and what it felt like. But then there was just this extra layer on top of it of, I mean, you know, you're talking about some very sort of, you know, run down sort of areas in Blackburn, you know, and you know, it was incredibly working class, you know, and there was just a togetherness. In fact, a lot of the people that were running those parties weren't even from Blackburn. A lot of them were from Dumbarton in Scotland. You know, there was that kind of Gaelic kind of like, you know,
spirit.
Yeah, spirit. That's the word we're looking for. And it was just something just very, very special. And then the police came along and they kind of broke the back of that. It was at a point where there was so many party goers that there wasn't enough police to stop it, which is why it became so good. And there was moments where there was like a new motorway being built called the M65, which is right next to Blackburn. And it had only just been built. And there was times, and absolute no word of a lie, where there'd be, the convoy would be three deep, you know, three cars across the 3 lanes, and then other cars would come onto the other side of the motorway, and you'd have 6 lanes going that way to the next junction, where the police would then have to stop, do a roadblock and stop any traffic from coming this way so there would be no crashes. It was insane, with people hanging out of sunroofs of the cars, out of the XR3s and, you know, Fiestas and all the rest of it. And it was just amazing. But the police eventually, it was the times where Maggie Thatcher and her army of, you know, followers, they had all the police that were involved in the mining strike. So they had all these police in riot gears. They started an actual party, a squad, a unit to break the ravers, and so they killed it in Blackburn, basically. There was one night, there was a party where it was called Strawberry Fields in Nelson, which is just outside Blackburn, and the police came along and they battered everybody. And it meant that there was no more partying in Blackburn. By this time, I'd moved from Manchester to Leeds. I'd met somebody and I ended up moving over to Leeds. And these boys knew that
You've travelled, Rob.
I have travelled, yeah. I've followed the party. I have followed the party. And
you are the party.
I love it, mate. I love it. And they knew that I lived in Leeds, and they said, right, we need somewhere else to go. We're thinking about coming to Leeds. Do you want to play for us in Leeds? So they started this, the next week up. In fact, it was probably a couple of weeks after that party. They were like, right, let's do this party in Leeds. So about 1,000 people got in. There was probably about 2,000 or 3,000 people trying to get in, and then the police turned up, and I was playing, and the guys who were the actual organizer of the party came to me and whilst I was playing, and they were like, right, the police are outside. And I looked up and I could see out of the warehouse. I could see out the top windows of the warehouse. I could see like helicopters buzzing round, and you could see all the blue lights going, all the rest of it. And I stupidly, because I was a bit smashed, got on the old microphone. And I know that probably a lot of people know this story, but I got on, in fact, it weren't even a microphone. I got on my headphones, plugged it into you can plug it into the headphone socket, plugged it in the headphone socket, and went, guys, if we want the party to carry on, we're going to have to fight these bastards. And unfortunately, everybody started fighting the police. And as a result of it, the police arrested everyone at the party, 1,000 people, took them to 20 different police stations all over Yorkshire, and held everybody, questioned everyone, let everybody go, then worked out who the main players were. Of course, sorry, this is the thing. So they put everybody in police vans. They put everybody in police vans. I think you can get 20 people in one of them old Ford police vans. So they took them away in 20. Can you imagine how long that took? It took quite a long time to get 1,000 people out of there to all these different police stations. But what they knew was that the last 20 people who were going to be in the last van were probably the main players, because we kept moving back in the queue. Do you know what I mean? Because we were thinking eventually they'll stop doing this and we'll get away, But they knew to play the long game, and literally the last 20 people that they scooped up were probably the people that they actually wanted the most. And then when we got to the police station, they took me to this police station, and whilst I was there, I saw these people who I'd seen earlier in the party with a video camera, who I thought were ravers, realised that they were undercover. Yeah, when you think, ooh, I'm sure I was dancing with them earlier on, which I was. And then they took me, they cautioned everybody, let everybody off. Then 3 weeks later, I'd been playing at a club in Manchester, came out of the club with a girl, went home, was in bed, and then the doors got booted off, and these 8 police people came in with dogs, and they were just like, get out of bed. It's like something out of a film, where you're there with your quilt on, get dressed, right? Took me off to Halifax police station, sat me down. They said, we've got a video nasty to show you. Show me this video of me going, hey guys, if you want the party to carry on, we're going to have to fight the bastards. And I was just like that, guilty as charged. And then they took me to court, and if you remember, there was this thing called the Criminal Justice Bill that they brought in to squash acid house. And the guy who invented the Criminal Justice Bill was a guy called Graham Bright, and he came to my trial and sat with the prosecutors and said he has to go down. And I ended up doing 3 months in Armley Jail, which is a nasty place to be, where you're seeing people getting slashed across the face and there's murderers in there and it ain't nice whatsoever. And I end up doing 3 months. It was like being in, like Porridge. Do you remember with Ronnie Barker? It was that kind of Victorian jail where you had a bucket to do your business in. It was not very pleasant whatsoever. But out of the back of that, when I got out of jail,
you was a hero.
and it ended up where some of the people that were involved in those parties looked after me, and then other people really looked after me as well. So it was at the point where the illegal stuff stopped and the legal stuff started, where people got longer licenses where you could then go till 6 a.m. And then I just started playing at the best clubs in Leeds, Manchester, Liverpool, Bowlers, which I'm sure you know very, very well. I was resident there for a while. And we used to do this thing called Arc in Leeds and another thing called the Trades Club. And we used to book people like Trevor Fung and Carl Cox. And he came along and played, and we had 1,000 people in this old venue in Chapeltown in Leeds. When I think back on it, it's insane to think that Carl Cox used to come to Chapeltown in Leeds and play at this old trades club. And me and Mark Leaf and a couple of other DJs were there, and we'd got our decks set up for him, 3 decks. First time we'd ever seen it done. He came in and he was like, "Hello, mate. I'm Carl. You skin up and I'll play records." And he came along and he got all his tracks, and he had a guy with him. I think he's still his mate now, a guy called Phil. And he had one of them, those old vinyl record boxes where the lid comes off altogether.
Yeah.
And he took it off. And he took all his tracks and he took them all out of the sleeves and put them in one side of the box. And he was literally throwing records on, mixing them together, playing breakbeat that we'd never heard anyone play breakbeat before. It was a brand new thing. So it had been beginning 91, I suppose.
Yeah.
And it was playing like Blaps Posse and SL2 and this Mendoza track and
Undercut.
Yeah. And doing like 2 copies of Moby Go.
What an era, goosebumps.
Ridiculous stuff where you're just like, oh my God, I've never seen anyone do anything like this in my entire life. I just want to play breakbeats. That's all I want to do. So for 2 or 3 years, we just ended up playing breakbeat and brought it to Leeds basically. And we ended up sort of doing a lot of that kind of stuff at Arc, where we used to get like 2,500 people every single time we did it. Every month we used to do it. It used to be packed, and we used to have Carl, and we used to have so many big people playing there, like acts of all sorts. So, and again, same thing where you'd have him, then you'd have Sister Bliss, and you'd have, like a real smorgasbord of like Express 2 and Carl Cox on the same bill, that kind of thing, So that's again where all that like eclectic love of,
I love that you're a southerner in the north of England with this northern experience.
It's quite funny because the thing is that there are still times, even like where I live, you'll just go to the sandwich shop to go and get something, and they're like, "You're not from round here, are you?" You do get it, but what I love is that they have accepted me, and I think the reason they accepted me was because I could give it back to them. When they're taking a mickey, you've got to be able to.
Well, there's that. But from a musical point of view, you obviously absolutely feel the heartbeat.
Oh, I love it. I know. It just never dulls down for me. I just absolutely love it, and I just keep adding other bits to it, and other styles and all
Your
that
first
stuff.
Tune was a breakbeat tune, wasn't it? A rare.
Yeah, PP Orange, yeah, on Art Records, yeah. It's quite funny. I found a box of them in my loft recently.
I remember you telling me, yeah.
They're going for like crazy money. I think they go for like £90 a tune or something, maybe £100 a tune. I was digging around in the loft. This is way before I broke my back, but I was just like, what's that there in the corner? all right, it's a copy of PP Orange. And then I was like, what's that in that box there? Shit, man, there's 20 of them.
Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing.
Crazy stuff. Yeah.
What made you not follow the breakbeat route and go down the housey route?
I've got to be really honest with you. I thought it got a bit laddish.
Right.
I thought it got, you know, certainly where we were, it just got a little bit. It stopped being. It stopped being as it. I don't know why. I think. Right, here's the thing, right, and I don't, because I love breakbeat. Please don't, please don't get me wrong, because I absolutely love it. Any opportunity I get to play at Rain Dancing with you guys or wherever that might be, you know, I really enjoy it. I love the fact that it's quite modular. You know, that you can just, you know, because it switches so quickly. I love that, you know, so it goes from, again, light to dark. I love all that. But I felt like the music started to lose a bit of quality after about 93. I'm not saying it completely did, because obviously there's been a lot of great stuff that you've done, and SMD and all them sort of labels have done. It just started to, I think, and it's not just a breakbeat. I've found it with several other styles of music as well. Progressive house was a very similar thing, where you've got 2 years of people who are the pioneers of that music, who are musicians, who are really tuned into making it amazing, and then you get another wave of people who can make music that's a bit like that will be good music, and then it starts to get less and less in terms of quality. You know, there's more quantity and less quality.
Yeah, I get that.
And I felt that was what was going on a little bit.
Do you think as well, like...
Is that a bad thing to say?
No, come on.
I'm just being honest. Do
you think as well, like, the breakbeat started getting faster and faster, and that suited London, that suited...
A little bit, yeah.
Like, more ravey DJs, and like, you just... The house is what caught you.
The house. I kind of just went back to the house. I think this is the thing. Is
the route is house though to the rave scene and the acid house scene.
You know, I started to so Arc was massive in the north of England. It was a massive night. And I was resident at it, and as I said, you know, you'd have a lot of different styles of artists coming along, and I started to like what I was hearing more of some of the house artists than I was liking off the more breakbeaty stuff. And I just broke off from there. You know, sometimes people just step off, don't they? That isn't to say that I haven't stepped back in.
Yeah.
But I just play what I love now, you know, and I play the era that I love. And it's just one of those things, you know. But it's not that I'm, you know, I didn't mean to kind of jump ship, but you know what it is.
People like you don't jump ship. You progress naturally to what you feel, and then as
it was an evolution,
and then
that's what I felt.
And then in this heritage time that we find ourselves in, if you go back and play breakbeat from 90, 91, 92, it would have been breakbeat that you would have played then.
I'd be passionate about it, and I'd love it. And this is the thing: you've got to love what you do, and it felt a bit more hard work because I wasn't being able to find the music that I loved as much, and you can only make so much music. And back in those times, you actually had to make music and then put it out as well, and that's quite a lengthy process to actually get a track signed and out. You know, so I just evolved from there into the house, and then out of the house not very quickly, but probably from say 93 to 95.
An amazing time for the progression in house music and tougher house. And
great music.
Great things.
Great music. Yeah. And then progressive house came about, and out of the back of the progressive house came I didn't even mean for it to happen, but a love of trance came along. You know.
Before we get onto that, I'm not letting you skip over XL recordings.
Oh, right.
Come on.
Sorry. Yeah.
Come on. I can't let you, the home of Prodigy,
Oh,
SL2,
no.
Liquid,
Yeah,
Adele,
yeah.
House of Pain,
Very
Dizzy
true,
Rascal.
yeah.
Come on, I cannot let you just go, well, I did this stuff and then Trance coming on.
No.
Rob was signed to XL
I was
Recordings.
signed to XL,
Come on, Rob,
Recordings.
tell us about that.
So, one of the people that I've worked the most with in music is Ian Bland from Dream Frequency, who is one of the funniest, most lovely blokes you'll ever meet, who also happens to be one of the most talented people you could ever meet.
And me and Ian are going to make some music. Ian, I know we say every
mate,
time.
you need to do this.
The other in the summer, in the summer, because I'm very conscious, because you give me all of your tunes, didn't you? And there's a couple that are like, they really suit my set.
Yeah.
And I'm always conscious if you're on. I'm always conscious. And I thought you was on after me the other week in Liverpool, so I didn't play them. And when you turned up, I said, I didn't play this one. And you said, I'm not on till another 2 or 3 hours. I said, you bastard. But the other week in Liverpool, Reminisce Festival, a different Liverpool gig, I was thinking, right, Rob's not on this, blah, blah, blah. So there I am playing yours and Ian's remixes. I turned around and there's Ian, and I had guilt. I'm like, oh no, I didn't realise you was on. But yeah, sorry, mate.
That's all right. That's all right. No, not at all. No. He is amazing at making music, and I got to know Ian, and we ended up making this track. It's quite funny, actually. Sorry. In that, from 93 to 95, 95 was actually a bit of a funny summer for music. I don't know whether you remember, but well, sorry, there was a lot. I think the whole thing got really big, but then it got so big that some gigs started to get cancelled. There was and I ended up in a situation in 95 where in the summer, I had about 8 cancellations in a row. You know, where you think,
what's happening here?
It's gone horribly wrong. Is this the end? You know, I suppose I've had quite a few years out of it. I shouldn't really complain, but at the same time, it seems like it's gone a bit awry. And then out of the back of that, I went in the studio with Ian and we made this track called Kick Up the Volume. And it ended up where he was signed to XL Records. Sorry, he was signed to XL Records. He played it to Nick Hawkes, the legend A&R man.
We love
Nick Hawkes, who went on to work at Positiva, where all them tracks that you see on Positiva, Nick and Kevin and those guys, they signed them records. Prior to that, though, on XL, he signed me to XL. Like Carl Cox used to play that Kick Up the Volume tune, and you know, and it ended up where, from having no work all summer, got this record signed. It ended up going to number 1 in the dance charts. There used to be the national chart and the dance chart. It went to number 1. When it hit number 1, Judge Jules asked me to go on Kiss FM on Judge and the Jury. Did that, and then out of the back of that, I'm getting phone calls off people in Australia saying, do you want to come to Australia and play, you know, off the back of doing this Kick Up the Volume record? And then out of nowhere, my career just went boom. So I think the thing is that sometimes making music that's a worldwide calling card. I've realised that's a worldwide calling card. I end up playing all over the world for the next, I don't know how many years. And
forever. Yeah,
pretty much, yeah. So I'm very, very grateful. I'd like to think that I'm a very, very respectful, humble, grateful sort of person. You know, I'm not. I'm not. You know, I've got no airs and grace about it. So I'm very grateful. If it hadn't been for Ian and Nick Hawkes doing that, my career would be completely different. You know, and that's where that came from. And then out of the back of that, Trance came along. Again, working with Ian, we started an act called Quake, and we ended up getting signed by FFRR. We did a track called The Day Will Come.
What a tune.
Thanks, mate.
The Day Will Come.
Yeah, we did The Day Will Come.
Tune.
Yeah.
The Day will go. Yeah.
It did that, and it blew. It just blew up. It just blew right up, and then I'm like, oh, right, I love this music. This is nice. I quite like this, because it's very emotional. It's a beautiful, emotional music, and being right at the beginning of it, it was nice to be part of that whole movement. And I did that from there to about 2000. And this is the thing: if you remember, in the days before, say, social media, you had magazines, and Mixmag was incredibly influential. And when Mixmag said hardcore was the thing or trance was the thing, it was the thing. But when they said trance is dead, then trance was dead, and they killed it. I don't know why they did, but they decided that trance was no more. Dead. Trance was dead, and it went back to being progressive house. And for me, the music that came next, it just sounded like one man and a bongo. It was just like, it just wasn't very good. I didn't like that particular period of that music. And then it was quite funny because I was having to dip my toe into that progressive house, that newer sound of progressive house, and I ended up being resident at this club in Leeds where we were booking Sasha and Digweed and Anthony Papper and all these guys at this thing that I used to do in Leeds, and I was doing that on a Friday night. Can't remember what the name of it was now, but anyway, I used to do that. And then on a Sunday, I was doing this new thing called Sunday Essential, which is hard house. And I got to know Madders, who used to run Sunday Essential. And he knew my journey, and he knew what I was all about and everything. And he was like, come and be resident for us. I want you to play at Sunday Essential. And I went to a Sunday Essential in Birmingham, at Pulse in Birmingham, probably in like 98, 99, I think it was, early 99. And I heard Andy Farley for the first time, and Ian M for the first time. And, when you think, Jesus Christ, this is full on, proper. And I used to go to trade as well. We used to do some gigs in London, like Leisure Lounge and Club UK and all them sort of clubs. So they all went on till like 8 in the morning. So I used to come out of there, and I used to go with the guys from Pure Groove, Tarek and those
Good
guys.
Old Pure Groove, Tripoli Tracks.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I used to go with them and Steve Hill, and we used to go
when he first moved over.
Yeah. And we used to go from the Leisure Lounge. I was resident at the Leisure Lounge, and we used to go from there to Trade, and that's where I first heard Tony DeVee play, and I got to know Tony quite well. From playing on the circuit. He used to play for us at Arc as well, actually, and listening to him play, and Ian M in particular, you think this is like a different level. This is going harder and deeper than I've ever gone. Am I up for that journey? Yes, I am. Yeah. And I ended up, doing that, and I ended up being one of the residents there and doing every last set at those gigs, and that then set me up for playing at all the stuff on Tidy, Good Grief, many other hard house events in between.
I think that period of hard house, 98 to say 2000, 2002,
that was pretty golden, wasn't it?
Not to be underestimated. And also, it's not to be underestimated in how close the vibes were to 91 and 92.
So this is the thing. When I went to Sunday Central for the first time, the very first thing that I thought about, as soon as I walked in and heard what was going on and the furore that it was creating, and the that kind of passion reminded me of the early rave scene and the 91 breakbeat scene.
I completely agree. So when Paul Glasby interviewed me, I think this interview might come out before Paul's comes out that he does with me, but I said to him, the thing when Sunny Side Up first ever booked me, like 96, 97 times, first ever booked me, the first thing I thought when I went in there was, this is more, and I said it in every interview at the time, this scene is more 91, 92 hardcore rave than Helter Skelter and Dreamscape was.
Yeah.
And I was playing those. Remember, I was playing those events at exactly the same time as I was going to Sunny Side Up or Eat Your Words and those kind of things. And if you'd have lived in 91 and 92 and you were still fortunate to still be there in the latter 90s, early noughties, trust me, hard house is not to be underestimated in keeping a heritage alive with the early rave scene.
It was ridiculous. I literally walked in there and I just thought, because this is the thing. Sorry, what I forgot to say was when they asked me to be resident at Sunday Central, I went and did a recce. I went to Birmingham. Didn't tell anybody I was going. I didn't say, "Oh, will you put me on the guest list?" And so none of that. I just thought, right, I'm just going to go because these things were on every week. I just thought, right, I've got a Saturday off. Just going to go and just see what's going on and get right in the middle of the dance floor and see, can I do it? And I stood there and I was listening. And of course, a lot of the things that Tony used to play and make, the things that they used to make and Ian used to make, had loads of Doc Scott samples and Hoovers and little breakbeaty rap samples and all that stuff. And as soon as I heard it, I thought, right, I think I can get with this because it's in my
Takes
DNA.
You back to a moment.
Yeah, and that's what kind of attracted me to it. And also the energy, the love, the passion, the fire, and like I say, I used to do the Friday night playing this like progressive-y sort of house stuff where I was really dumbing myself down because I was warming up for these guys. So you can't go crazy.
Yeah, you can't.
So actually, really, where you're thinking, I'm in a straitjacket. I'm in a musical straitjacket here, and I didn't like it at all. And then I'd go there, and I'd just think, I can actually
let loose.
But also the one thing that I think Andy Farley used to do, and I think myself used to do, we play vocals in amongst it all. And that gave it a vocal identity. It gave some people something to latch on and sing some words to before we smash them in the face again with some hoovers and with some hard beats, and some of that stuff. When you listen back to that music now, when you listen back to all the stuff on Nucleus Blue and what have you, and the stuff that you used to do on your labels, on Tasty and all that kind of thing, Honey Pot and all that sort of stuff, it's got some absolute fire to it, isn't it?
It's got absolute energy, and it's funny because hard house is most certainly on a resurgence,
massively so, yeah.
And again, mentioning Paul Glasby, you think, Rob, if you think back to our Unity in the Sun, we've had hard house there for 10 years.
Yeah.
I never dropped it.
No.
When you think of when we used to do Tasty every New Year's Eve.
Yeah, absolutely.
When like everyone had fallen by the wayside, and I was always one of the things I always felt with hard house, it was the only music, like me and you have been involved with so many musics and have got heritage. It's kind of like the music that all these DJs announce that they're retiring from and promoters announce. And I could never get that. Because I was thinking,
I'm not one for that. I'm not one for the old.
Music people don't retire. It's like
I'm going to say something here, mate. I'm going to say something here. To anybody who's listening, if you are going to retire, just don't say anything and just stop playing and just let the gigs recede and just go away.
Yeah.
Don't make the big announcement unless it's just a cry for some people to go, oh yeah, Billy, don't go. Come on, just stop doing it. But I
also
sorry to be a bit of a devil, but I also just stop.
I also feel that we and hard house was this kind of like its big trajectory, like boom, even though it was like you could feel in 97, 98 it was going to go, but that turn of the noughties, and there was a lot of music, whether that was grime, whether that was dubstep, whether that was hard house. There was like a lot of genres that at the turn of the noughties went bang. And I also think a lot of it was by the turn of the noughties, where those people who, the original jungle drum and bass lot, who had been round from 88, 89, 90, and then they'd progressed in. People like yourself, you'd been round from 88, 89, 90, progressed in. Your hardcore people like Slipmat, Psy, Dougal, me, Vibes. We had been around before there was rules. And then by the turn of the noughties, there was absolutely rules. So
the boxes to put.
So within all the genres that I just mentioned, or all of the musics, like we see such a new wave of younger people than us. Or if they wasn't younger than us, it was their first taste of, like, I'm not going to say stardom, but the DJ buzz that we'd been feeling for a decade between all of us. And I think it created careers. We never looked at it as a career. So by the time a new wave of people come in, all of a sudden there was in hard house, I'm talking about hard house, but it happened in all the other musics. There's career-minded young men and women.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
and I think who all of the mistakes, you getting locked up in prison, me telling you about situations down there with knives at the throat and all that. The mistakes had been made.
Yes,
in already. So if someone had been like, right, I've had my 5-year career, then you start seeing it's over, no more, I'm not promoting anymore, I'm not doing this anymore, And I always saw that a lot with hard house, and it never quite stuck with me, because it didn't resonate with me, because my thing is, when you're a music person,
just I've got a rule: never say never.
Never ever
it's
say
what Jesus said.
Never ever say never. While you're playing all this banging hard mental music, right? You was also a funky house music pioneer in this country, and I don't care what anyone says. You gave some of the biggest house acts now in the world their first gigs.
We did.
And when we say the biggest house acts, I'll let you.
Sorry. Well, we didn't quite get around to that, did we? In amongst it all, right. So this is what happened with that, actually. At Sunday Central, the back room became Funky Central, and it became what I could see. You know, I'm just one of them sort of people that I can see something, and I can. You know, when you see a spark, you think, hold on a second.
Well, you feel it. You're not even seeing it.
Just thinking to myself, right, what I'm seeing at the moment is people love this funky stuff, right? So bearing in mind, so in that period, in that Sunday Central period, which would have run 98 to say 2000, and well, I mean, it went on for quite a long time, but say in the 98 to 2003 period, funky house came along. Junior Jack, and
I liked funky house.
DJ Flex, and like proper funky house, you know, and all of the French stuff came along, Alan Brax and all that kind of amazing music that still sounds fresh to this day. All the stuff on Defected, that also borrowed loads of samples from
classics,
from the actual soul music
label.
So I was like, right. So we had this back room, and what I was seeing was all the people that used to come to Sunday, not all the people, but a lot of people that used to come to Sunday Central, the real Sunday Central heads, who used to be the people with the Monsters Inc. backpacks on and come with the Beano albums, the Beano things about. There'd be a queue of people wanting stuff signed, like a Beano comics and all that sort of stuff. All these people that were into that sort of stuff, who were also cyber kids. They were probably cyber kids before they were into Sunday Central. They started loving the funky house, and the back room, you couldn't get another person in there. There was a queue to get in the back room, and I'm like, this is so good that we should take this and put it in its own environment. So we took it out of there, and we took it to the Mint Club in Leeds, and it was Funky Central, and we ran it for a couple of years. With our resident DJs, the Trophy Twins, who then went on to be on Radio 1. They were DJs on Radio 1 for a while. So we started doing that, and then out of the back of that, we had a little fallout, unfortunately. You know how these things
Life
go.
happens, mate.
Unfortunately,
when you're younger and there's loads of buzz
happen.
about it, happens.
You know, and we kind of parted ways with the Sunday Central boys over a few financial issues where it was just like, why don't we just do our own thing? So me and one of the other partners, Glyn Tolley, decided we'd start our own night. So we started this night called Kiss the Funk, and we put it on, and it just blew up. From some things just do, don't they? I don't know how it happened, but from the first gig, we had 1,000 people in at the first gig. You know, when you sort of put something on, and this is the days of selling tickets. There was no ticket selling. It was just a case of, you know, you walk around the corner and you see what you got, don't you? You know, as a promoter.
I was talking to Lee Butler about that at the weekend.
You walk around the corner and you see where we at, what we got, you know, what we playing to, and walk around the corner. Frigging mobbed. I couldn't believe it. You know, that thing outside the best parties where, you know, everyone's like, oh my God, I hope I'm gonna get in tonight. You know, that feeling with all the punters, and it just took off. And then at that very same time, like we started it in January, and then I went to the Miami Music Conference, and I knew the guys from Mixmag from doing all the Sunday Central stuff in particular, and got to know the boys from Mixmag. And then I was at this party, and they were like, "You need to book him." And I shook hand with this guy, and it's Steve Angelo, right? I'm like, right, bloody hell, it's Steve Angelo. I mean, I didn't even know who he was, you know. And I was like, look, we've run this party in Leeds. You know, do you fancy coming over? He's like, yeah, no worries, I'll come over. So I booked him, and then at the back of booking Steve Angelo, he's like, I've got some mates who might want to come and play. And then he started coming over with Sebastian Ingrosso, and we used to have them playing back to back. And sometimes they used to say to me, "You're playing back to back with us tonight." Right. And I was like, Jesus Christ, I'm playing back to back with Ingrosso and Angelo, you know. And then we booked David Guetta for his first gig in England. Yeah.
Did you hear that, people? Did you hear that? Right, listen to this story. He went to some of the first illegal raves that were being put on by London promoters. He decided to move to Manchester to be near the Hacienda. He was then arrested for his love and passion for underground warehouse parties born out of the whole Bradford scene. Fast forward over 10 years later, and he is the first person to book David Guetta, and he'd already been on XL recordings. That thing, it was just a magical moment. It was just organic. It was just one of those things, because when they came, our crowd, it was a really cool crowd that used to go to Kiss the Funk. You know, like everybody looked cool as cucumbers. They all had the mullets, and you know, the latest. It was all Saints, and you know, like in the days when it was like with the big studded belts and all that stuff. Everyone was in the prime of their lives. They were all like university students. We had a deal with the guys who did a load of parties at the university, so we used to be filled with the coolest looking people. And then when these boys came over, they were like, you need to go and play there because it's so cool. And then we'd have Laid Back Luke, and we'd had Dirty South, and Afrojack, and all those guys. Like, we brought Afrojack over for the first time. In fact, he doesn't really come to this country very much at all anymore. Anyone who knows their funky house and house history and those names now. Wow.
Yeah. Well, so this is the thing.
Is it gave for the same money still?
Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, we used to be a few £100. It was ridiculous. We gave Dave Guetta £400 for his first gig.
And now those people generally do.
When I say his first gig, I don't mean his first gig. I mean his first gig in this country. Like he was already a superstar over there. He was married to a TV star over in France. But yeah, he came over. I think it might have been £450.
And those kind of people get millions now, don't they? When they go to like
it's absolutely
Las Vegas
mental. funnily enough, we brought it back. We're going to do a reunion in Easter. We're going to do Easter Sunday in Leeds. We've just booked it all up, got all the flyers out and everything, and put it up on the internet.
We should make a call to David Guetta. Come on, son. Remember the first geezer who booked you in the UK? There's 400 quid waiting for you.
yeah. Big 400. Yeah. No, but
Don't forget him.
Yeah, we just. You know what? We weren't going to bring it back. It was a very tumultuous and twisty-turny journey with Kiss the Funk, because it ended up becoming pretty massive. You know, we ended up doing it all over the world. We had residencies in Bahrain and Dubai and Singapore, monthly residencies at all those places, and Marbella and. Obviously Ibiza. We used to do Space Terrace in Ibiza. We used to do Judgment Sunday over there. We've done all sorts in Ibiza with Kiss the Funk. We used to do El Divino over there. So we brought it back for a little reunion. We decided not to go quite down that line and start booking some of them.
Well, you can play all night on your own.
And some of our residents were amazing as well. So we've kind of brought back the resident team, and I think that's how we want to play it at the moment. Is we want to kind of try to sort of make it more about those guys as well. Because
David ain't needed. Stay at home, sit this one out.
The thing is, I mean, it was funky house to begin with, but then that gave birth to the newer version of electro. So all the stuff that sort of, and we used to have Mark Knight and all those sort of people play for us as well. I'm hearing that music coming back more. There's certain tracks that are on Tool Room now that I've heard a few things that James Hurst made where you think that sounds like Kiss the Funk music, and that's what kind of triggered it in our brains to think to ourselves, you know what, we'll get the band back together, man. Just for one more party,
Rob, if you could go back to all your eras, right, all of the incredible things that you've done, could you pick a favourite era? If you can't pick a favourite, one that nostalgically is like, wow, can't let go.
Those early raves. Oh, mate, that's a really difficult question. That is a difficult question, because the thing is, all the things that we've talked about, I do feel iconic really moments. Strongly about. They're moments in time, and they're great for so many reasons. And it's just nice to have been involved in all that kind of stuff, and all of those things have got a very similar ethos. If you were to, things that sort of flip into my mind, Sunday Central was ridiculously good. That hard house period, tidy, all of the tidy parties,
fanatical there. The
tidy weekenders,
crowds.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
I feel like I've almost like undersold by not speaking enough about those guys, because Tidy Tracks is another amazing label stroke brand stroke party, and they've just sold out the Opera House with Lisa Lashes, and
I saw the videos that Lisa put the videos out, and I looked, I was like,
insane,
brilliant,
absolutely insanely good.
I keep an eye.
Yeah, absolutely.
I keep an eye on it.
The thing is, though, I know that you could just step in there and boom, smash that stuff right out. I know you can. I've heard you smash that out, mate. I've heard you. I've seen you do it. Seen you do it many times. So yeah, no, honestly, I've got to say, some of those tidy weekenders were, and they still are ridiculous. They're doing one this year over in San Lorette in wherever that is, Spain, basically. So that was a particularly golden period, that early 2000s period. But crikey, seriously, the early 90s, hard to beat, really, I would say.
What does it feel like? Because I don't, like, I play a lot of genres and I get away with it in a lot of different places. And I don't think there's many people like us who can do that. And I think it's just a case of time has led us. Time has led us to that. Whereas, in the mid-90s, if you was playing funky house and then all of a sudden went, I'm going to play banging hard house, or when I was doing the hardcore and would say, well, I want to do hard house for no, because everyone was so pigeonholed in that point. What does it feel like knowing that you can go and play all this different music all weekend?
It's lovely. I love it. It keeps my life fresh, to be honest. It really does, because like I say, there's sometimes I'll play at a tidy event and I'll play at Clockwork Orange. I mean, wow, you can't beat that, can you really? Or Housework, or them sort of parties where they've got, say Clockwork Orange and those sort of parties, Housework, they've got a similar ethos to all the things that we've had the same passionate conversations about. They still have a crowd that have that kind of love for the music and for the community, their own community, and playing at them sort of things and being able to do all them things in one weekend, because it is like that sometimes. Sometimes I'll play breaks, breakbeat stuff, and then go to Clockwork Orange and play there, and then go and play hard house. It's great. It's a challenge as well. Of course it is. It's a challenge. But what I, sorry to interrupt you, but what I try to not do ever is play the wrong music in the wrong building. I think that's massively important. And then sometimes I'll go to house party, go to a house gig, and then people will play Lock and Load, and but I wouldn't do it. No, I personally wouldn't do it. Yeah. I kind of know where you have to step off, to be respectful, to not try to educate. Don't get me wrong. We all want to play music where people can learn something from it. But we are not there for that. We are there to entertain people. We need to choose wherever we're playing and make sure that we play the right music at the right time, because there's nothing worse than, promoters coming up to you going, "Oi, geezer,
what are you doing?
Get the old shepherd's
I've been that geezer as a promoter."
Well, there's nothing worse, is there? Where you're watching somebody playing and thinking, what is he or she doing? Why are they doing that? Do you know what I mean? It's just not right. Where people just play techno in a bloody house party.
Yeah, I sometimes like playing with, never in my wildest dreams, never in my trajectory or vision, because we all have a vision of what we do and where we're going. So I would never think in the year 2025, me as a hardcore rave, of course in London I was playing original house music, but I could never envisage for myself, with all my inspiration, with all my energy, that I would play in Liverpool, drive up from mine to Liverpool to play with you, John Kelly, Lee Butler, an old school house piano breakbeat set. It was never part of the plan. But that's where I find myself. Yeah. And because what we do is genuine. So all those records that you heard me play, I was playing in 90 and 91. So it transcends. And like John Kelly's a legend. Like his name, I've been seeing his names for over 35 years, right? Yeah. And wow. I'm on after John Kelly. Do you still have that childlike?
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, of course I do. Yeah, of course I do. There's loads of times that I go out and I play at events where you think, wow, like I'm following Graham Park. Yeah. Graham Park is one of the people that brought me to the north of England. Yeah. He made me drive up the motorway. Him and Mike Pickering made me drive up the motorway on a Wednesday, then drive back, and then drive back on a Friday every week for nearly a year, and then I'm playing after him, at several events. Recently, I've played at a few things with him and all those guys. So many other DJs where you just think, wow, that's.
Do you think that helps us to have all these amazing gigs because we're still fans of the history?
I think you must be passionate
artists,
about. You've got to be passionate. You've got to be passionate about what you do, haven't you? You've got to still feel that. If it becomes a job, that's not part of my plan, really. You know, I still feel lucky to be able to do that. You know, long may that continue.
I'm still embarrassed when promoters say, "What's your rider?" Water, mate, because the whole drink thing.
I am a cheap date.
I am, mate. Like I still find it hard. Like, what do your friends want? What does Sonia want?
Yeah.
No, just get me on the fucking deck. So that, like, fuck this lot.
I know. A few Red Bulls and some waters and a couple of beers maybe. That's about it. That's all I need, really. Yeah.
Do you love it now as much as you ever did?
I do. I absolutely love it. I'm ready to go another level. I'm ready to go I've got another gear.
Yeah.
I feel like I've got another gear. I really do. I always say the best. He's dropped his bins
there.
The best day should always be ahead of you.
1,000,000%. Like I say that. So you think we've probably got touch wood. We've got less time ahead of us than we've had behind us.
Yeah.
So, we've got 35 plus years each.
Yeah, I will not be doing this in 35 years.
That's
for sure.
70 years of combined entertaining people and loving what we do. But for me, every day I get up is the start of that journey taking that 35 years knowledge. And I think I've got more energy than I've ever had.
That's awesome. I'd like to say, I just think the best days have got to be ahead of you. Simple as that. You've got if you dwell too much. I know we spent all this time reminiscing about the past, but I don't think that it's important to just think about the past. I think you've got to press on. We're ambitious people. I want to crack on.
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Final question.
Yeah.
Are you ambitious for success or ambitious for the love of music?
I love music.
Hallelujah.
I love music. I can't sing, but I love music. I think if I'd have passed away in that car crash, I could still think to myself that it's been pretty successful. Do you know what I mean? So I'm not looking to gain more success.
Yeah.
I'd just like to gain a few more great life experiences. There's some things I'd still like to do. There's still things I'd like to do again.
Yeah.
There's still things I'd like to just continue doing, with all the people that I work with at the moment.
Amazing.
Yeah. And I think we should just all support each other. That's the thing, I do. Yeah. I love the fact that we all support each other. That's the thing that I love about the rave scene in particular.
It does. Yeah.
That actually people want to help you out and they want you to do well and they want to give you an opportunity, and I love that.
Yeah, I have no vision of either monetary success or whatever you think status success is.
Surely money comes if you do well at what you do anyway.
Yeah, I just have this appetite for celebrating celebrating the music, celebrating my peers who have done that music and played that part in it, and then also I have this like absolute passion and hunger to keep entertaining the people who have grown with us or are just discovering us if they're younger. And I think we are in an absolutely magical time at the ages that we're at.
Yeah. We can't complain, can we? Who ever thought when we first started it, when you first started playing, when I first started playing, who ever thought you'd get 35 years out of this?
Come on,
I
man.
didn't ever think that. Not in a million years. I just think you've just got to keep going forward. Just keep pressing on. No relent. It's simple as that. You just got to crack on.
Yeah, and I think being in a place where you had a car accident where you could have lost your life, knowing that we've lost so many friends who we looked up to, admired, inspired us, makes it even more poignant and important to do what we continue to do.
Absolutely. We shall crack on.
Rob, I love you, mate.
Thanks, mate. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thank you for listening. Thank you.
Yeah, your story's incredible.
Thank you.
For Rob's book, the link is down in the description. It's an amazing book, The Smiler. There's even more. We'll probably leave here and Rob will go, oh, we didn't talk about this.
There's a lot of stories. There's a lot
always
of stories.
but they're in the book. Thank you, Rob.
Thank you very much, mate.
Love you.
I really appreciate it, and I love you. Thank you.